The scene starts in a castle, where a maid opens the curtains. Rhea says that everything is finally ready. She thinks about the legend of the azure dice, which says that when the kingdom of Geraint was first established, there was a legendary archmage who burned all of the king's enemies with his azure flame. When King Ephron Geraint died, that archmage vanished from history, leaving behind one last prophecy. If a time comes when her name is called, she will return to use her flame for whoever summons her. Centuries later, in the northern part of Ariel territory, Rhea sits while a person in a black overcoat stands in front of her, asking who Rhea is. Rhea, sipping her tea, politely says it's nice to meet the archmage. The archmage asks how she knows his name and who she is. Rhea leans in, wondering what he thinks, and confesses that she's just a reincarnated person. She explains that in her past life, she was an ordinary office worker who died in a plane crash during a business trip. But when she opened her eyes, she found herself in the character of a novel, Lady Catherine. In the novel, Cath was this sweet girl from a poor family who stole the hearts of the kingdom's top 5 bachelors. Sadly, Rhea didn't reincarnate as the heroine, her pet fish, or even a bystander. She got stuck as the villain instead. Rhea, born as the precious daughter of Duke Oberon, was loaded with wealth and beauty, but had a nasty personality to match. So when her dear fiancé, Crown Prince Cassia, fell for Cath, Rhea tried everything to win him back, even plotting Cath's demise. But all her schemes flopped miserably, and she got caught red-handed. As Rhea sat there, Cass marched up to her, calling her out for being a terrible person and daring to harm Cath. Rhea couldn't help but think about how Cass was Cath's first love, destined to become king and marry her in the end, according to the novel. She realized she had lousy taste in men and wondered why she clung to Cass like she did in the story when he was obviously meant for Cath. And yet, Rhea could have just basked in the luxury of being the Duke's daughter for the rest of her days. So why did she crave love when she had all that money? She then corrected Cass, insisting it wasn't murder but attempted murder since Cath was still kicking. Cass slammed his hand on the table, baffled by Rhea's nonsense. Rhea proposed to end the engagement, offering to vanish from high society and live quietly. Would that satisfy him? With that, she rose to leave, expressing her hope to never cross paths again. After departing from Cass, Duke Oberon decided to send her to their family territories in Ariel, located in the cold and barren north, a perfect place for her to lounge around. As she arrived, the biting cold hit her, and she snapped at a maid for not warning her about the harsh weather conditions. She then questioned the maid about how they managed to live in such freezing surroundings. The maid simply asked if she wanted more tea. Rhea trembled and snapped at the maid, asking why the fireplace wasn't lit. At this rate, she'd freeze to death. She knew the only wood in Ariel came from the black steel tree, but it was so tough it wouldn't catch fire, making it unsuitable for burning, so all the firewood had to be imported. But about a week ago, the company supplying wood had cut off their deal. Rhea explained that the local company was tied to the first prince's maternal relative. The maid nodded in agreement. First Prince Leiden had lost his mother at a young age and his position as crown prince to Cass, who was backed by his maternal family. Consequently, he held a grudge against Rhea, whose family supported the current. However, Leiden met his demise after the main character got hitched. Rhea pitied him, viewing him as a character doomed for death, much like herself, who eventually takes her own life in the story. But why did he stab her in such a spot? Leiden should have confronted her directly if he had a bone to pick, rather than taking it out on his territory in such a petty manner. She sat there and instructed Emma to stack the black steel logs in the fireplace. Emma seemed hesitant, but Rhea stopped her, reassuring her that she had some tricks up her sleeve. Recalling how she called upon the archmage from the novel, she pushed aside those thoughts and focused on the present, facing the archmage, deciding to nickname him Harry. The demon, Rhea speculated that the archmage, known as one of Geraint's founding heroes, was actually the demon of the azure flame. According to legend, the first king of Geraint, Kar, established his kingdom by making a pact with a demon. Harry commented on how Rhea a descendant of that ambitious fool who sought to become king centuries ago, exuded different aura and bore no resemblance to him at all. Rhea interrupted, asking if she could state her wishes before delving into explanations, as she needed his azure flame. Harry agreed, inquiring about her intentions, whether they were for wealth, honor, power, or fame. He assured her he could burn down anything and everything. Rhea declined, clarifying that she merely wanted his fire for warmth. It was freezing there, and the wood they had was impossible to ignite with regular fire. That's why she called upon him, and once he lit the fireplace, he could leave. So she urged him to hurry up and get the fire going before departing. However, Harry refused, stating he couldn't leave. Shocked, Rhea asked why. He stepped closer to her and questioned if she didn't know. They both sit near the fire, and he tells her that it was more like that, and she thought it would be blue since it was called an azure flame. But it wasn't really. She laughed and continued that Harry stated he was going to grant all her wishes till she died, and she wondered who would have thought that demons were such suckers. Harry said that was why there was usually a price for each wish that was made, like the firstborn child of the idiot who became king. And she was the first one who summoned him without paying any price, and he questioned how she was able to do such a thing. She thought his reaction was no surprise, since the demon god erased the names of all demons from the memories of everyone in that world. She told him that since she called him, she would take full responsibility for him. Being happy, he asked if she was going to let him kill and fight. She told him she was only going to feed him and give him a place to rest. He was shocked to hear that and felt doomed. She questioned if he really wanted her to make him miserable. He replied, "Let's give that a try." She told him that any wish she made would be his command, and she could wish for him to just walk for the whole day without sleeping or eating. He was shocked and wondered why such a person summoned him. Rhea thought it was fortunate that he was handsome, and taking care of him should be a lot more rewarding than having to chase the crown prince around. As she called him, she found herself growling and mumbling that she was like an evil. He told her to just call him Harry. She agreed and said she had one more wish. He said he wasn't thinking about fighting behind her back. She explained it wasn't like that she just wanted him to not kill her, but protect her. He replied that it was such a stupid wish and he couldn't kill his master. She asked him not to leave her to die, and then inquired if he could change his appearance a bit because he was too handsome and would be spotted from a mile away. He moved closer to her, asking if she really thought he was. She questioned why he was surprised, being sure that he already received lots of compliments. He explained that she seemed so unfazed that he thought she didn't recognize his beauty. Then he agreed to be less attractive as she asked, so he transformed into a dog, and then she asked about his powers. She moved her hand onto him and called him cute. He withdrew his head, asking how she dared to treat him like a dog and how she was going to explain the fire to others. She said she was a magician. Harry got confused and asked if she had around 0.5 mana. She agreed. She thought that magicians used magic by controlling the mana in their bodies, so the greater the amount of mana one had, the more skilled one's magic would be. However, all people were born with a fixed amount of mana that couldn't be changed, and a person's mana was measured the minute they were born with a mana rate of 0.5. This meant she could barely light a candle, whereas Kath was so powerful that she had a mana rate of 9. Rhea told Harry that it wasn't like they could disagree if she insisted she had done it, especially since she was the Duke's daughter. Harry thought there wasn't any way people were going to fall for that. All the maids and servants were shocked to see the fire there. One maid commented that she couldn't believe the black steel log was burning. A servant remarked that Rhea talked like an Amazon, and they didn't have to live at the mercy of the merchants anymore. Harry thought they all seemed so happy to see the fire. Rhea said it was nothing, just a desperate prayer that seemed to work, and after all, she was a magician. Someone started to mention her mana rate, but they all ignored it. Then they asked what the dog was doing there. Rhea quickly explained that she found him outside and thought he might be a stray, so she kept him. A man asked what would happen to the smaller dogs. Rhea grabbed Harry and said she liked that dog and didn't want any other dog. The man suggested that if nobody claimed the dog, they should keep him. Just then, Rhea noticed one man was crying. Through his tears, he said it was like a miracle brought about by her kindness. He praised her efforts to bring warmth to the territory with such a small amount of mana, and how they no longer had to pay unreasonable prices for wood. He admitted they were fools for believing terrifying rumors about her and asked for forgiveness. Rhea reassured him there was nothing to forgive. The man called her merciful and said they would share the news with everyone in the mansion, who would all be thrilled. Then he hurried off. Rhea thought it seemed like a good outcome. The scene shifted to the study of Baron Insentia, the administrator of Arel. The Baron pondered the fire that could burn black steel wood. He considered that Rhea might be trying to hide her true powers, knowing she had very little mana. He doubted she should be capable of magic and speculated it might have been the king's idea to conceal her abilities. The Oberons held a heritage and authority that rivaled the royal families. If a child with immense power were born into the Oberon family, it would likely lead to a new political struggle. The king's decision to keep this a secret puzzled him. Perhaps he was testing Rhea against the legend of the north. The Baron sensed a new flame about to ignite in the northernmost region of Arel, one that would dispel all hardships. As Rhea slept with Harry, he reverted to his true form and wondered if she had fallen asleep, which was a first. He remembered how she had said she needed sleep. Rhea, feeling him move, asked why he was acting like a real dog when he was a demon, so he shouldn't cry out loud. Harry said he didn't want to sleep on the couch. He stopped reminiscing and observed that Rhea had been so cautious and fierce before, but he guessed she was still a child at heart. He wondered what she wanted. By moving his fingers on her hand, he said she had already told him she didn't want anything, but he was sure that whatever desire lay rooted inside her would be delightful to discover. Just then, he heard a noise from outside, so he woke Rhea up. She asked what happened. Harry said it seemed like someone was in the living room, and maybe it was an assassin. Rhea asked who would send an assassin there, but on second thought, she supposed it was possible. As she went outside, she found a maid near the fire, so she asked what the maid was doing there. The maid, frightened, was recognized by Rhea as Emma. Emma was terrified and begged Rhea not to kill her. Rhea asked Harry if she really seemed that scary. Harry replied that she was a bit. Rhea sat down and Emma apologized, saying she was so desperate she couldn't think of anything else besides stealing. Rhea asked what Emma was trying to steal. As Emma hesitated, Rhea told her not to mind and just take what she wanted. Emma was surprised to hear that. Rhea continued, saying there wasn't anything that seemed important to her, and Emma said she was so desperate that it didn't matter what she took. Emma asked if Rhea was sure she could take some fire. Rhea was surprised to hear that, and Emma told her she knew Rhea would deny it. Rhea asked if the butler had taken some fire from the fireplace earlier to share with all the other people. Emma explained that the Baron had banned all the servants from taking it outside the mansion, and even the fire was only to be used where needed. Rhea said the Baron must have had a good reason for that, but nothing could be more important than saving people from freezing to death, and she was sure he wouldn't make a fuss about her using the fire however she liked. Then she asked Emma to take some fire with her as well. As they both came outside, Emma told Rhea there was a guard at the main gate. Rhea said, "Let's go." Just then, the guard saw her and questioned what was happening. Rhea told him it was odd to see someone standing guard at such a time. The guard was surprised to see Rhea there, and she asked him to open the gate because she wanted to go for a walk. He was confused that she wanted to go for a walk at such a time, and Rhea said the dog would insist on it. The guard said that if that was the case, he could take Harry out for her. But Harry bit the guard's hand. Rhea shouted at Harry, so he let go of the guard's hand. Rhea told them that, as they could see, Harry didn't obey anyone else besides her. The guard said the Baron ordered that no one should go outside, and it was already very late. Rhea got angry and asked how he dared to come in her way. The guard got scared and said he would move out of her path, so she shouldn't chop off his fingers. Rhea wondered about chopping fingers. Emma mentioned there was a rumor about Rhea that she loved to collect fingers. Rhea asked what for, and Emma said she wouldn't know. Rhea said she didn't know either since she didn't collect fingers. Emma was shocked that Rhea didn't do such a thing. Then Rhea, along with Harry and Emma, went outside and Rhea told Emma to show the way. The guard was nervous and started running behind Rhea, asking her to wait for him. Rhea asked why he was following her. He replied that it was already very late, so it was dangerous outside. Ria said if it was dangerous, wouldn't it be wise for him to leave his post? The guard was confused about whether to watch over the mansion or follow Ria. He started crying, wondering what he should do. Ria told him to stop crying and just come with her, and if he got in trouble, he should tell the others that she dragged him along. He thanked her for that. Emma takes Ria to the house where she grew up. If they were adults, they might have managed somehow, but they were just kids. Some children from inside called out that it was handy having Emma outside. Harry told Ria that it wouldn't be surprising if a couple of them had already died. Ria agreed with him. Emma told those kids that it was her, so she came inside. Ria told Lionel, the guard, to stack the wood in the fireplace. Lionel agreed with her. As Emma was inside, kids came up to her, and one said that the wood didn't catch fire. Emma replied not to worry, she had a way to fix it. As she turned around, she found everyone else having fun with the dog and Lionel. But one kid was scared of Ria, so she hid her face behind Emma. Ria wondered if she was really that scary. Emma told Ria that everything was ready. Ria lit the fire, and 2 of the girls were surprised to see it. As they messed with the fire lamp, it blew up because it fell. Emma got emotional when the fire Ria brought blew up. The girls cried too and apologized to Emma for that. Ria noticed that as Emma cried, the kids cried as well. Ria called Harry over and told him to light the fire. He asked if it was okay because lots of people were watching. She replied that there was no other choice, she couldn't ignore them, especially after seeing everything. Harry agreed and snapped the wood to start the fire. One girl asked Ria if she was a magician. Ria replied that it was a secret. Then she told Lionel and Emma to keep that secret too. They both agreed. Ria then told Emma that she was leaving and that Emma should come to the mansion the next day. Emma thanked her for that. As they were leaving, Ria told Lionel that he was leaving his sword behind. Emma thought that due to all the scary rumors, she was nervous when she found out she would have to serve Ria. But Ria exposed her secret to save strangers like them, and Emma decided to serve Ria for her whole life. The next day, as Ria woke up, all the people greeted her kindly and treated her with great respect. Ria was shocked, and as she entered a room, Emma asked her what happened. Ria asked her why everyone was talking to her so kindly. Emma replied that it was because they were very grateful to her as residents of Irel. Ria remembered that morning when she was talking with a man. She asked him why he wasn't sharing the fire with the residents of Irel, and unless he had a particular objection, she suggested they send some to the village. He agreed, saying that if she wished it, they would start sharing the fire with the people. Emma told her that this was why others were so grateful to her, and that people would now know about her caring character. Ria went to sit with Harry and said that it was a good thing. Emma asked if she should bring some tea. Just then, another maid knocked on the door and told Emma something. Ria asked what they talked about. Emma replied that Cass came to meet Ria. Ria was surprised to hear that. Ria thought that even after they broke up, he still came to see her, and she wondered if something like that happened in the original story. Since the story focused on Kath, she guessed that even if that did happen, it would have been left out entirely. She tried not to take it too seriously. As she reached the room, he was waiting. He said it had been a long time since he last saw her and remarked that she seemed to be in better health there than when she was in the capital. As she looked at his attire, she couldn't help but wonder if he had come there secretly. She was sure that anyone who saw how he was dressed could tell that he was royalty. Then she asked why he wanted to meet her. He replied that seeing how well she had adjusted to the countryside was surprising for him. After all, she was Everia Oberon, and it was even more surprising to believe that she was doing well there without him by her side. She was shocked and wondered what he was talking about. She told him to stop joking and asked why he came there. He replied that he really came to meet her and he knew that she was pretending to be fine, but he couldn't even fathom how lonely she must have been without him. Ria thought that this was how Cass led to Ria in the novel, and Ria blindly loved him and gave him everything he asked for. But he was a little too late because when it comes to looks, Harry was far more handsome than Cass. Cass thought he came to comfort her because she was heartbroken. She replied that she was afraid he wasted his time and calling off a little engagement didn't faze her at all. He just stood by, calling her by her nickname. She thought resorting to cute nicknames at that time was odd. Cass said that he never thought he would really fall in love with someone, and that's why he went along with their engagement. But when he met Kath, he couldn't imagine marrying anyone else besides her. Rhea told Cass that he wouldn't get the blessing of Rhea or anything else. Cass agreed and said that he wanted her blessing for his future life with Kath. Rhea thought it was nonsense. Cass said he was sure she would gladly give it. She wondered what was wrong with Cass. He stepped closer to her and told her that her father had withdrawn his support of the mining business, putting Cass in a difficult position. So, if she cooperated with him, he might not be able to make her his queen, but he could offer her something else. Rhea reminded him that on the eastern side of the kingdom, there was an undeveloped magic stone mine. It had been predicted that there were valuable stones there, but the development costs had prevented anyone from moving forward with the business. Cass wanted to develop that mine with the support of the Oberon family so he could more firmly secure his position as crown prince. The Oberons withdrew their support after Rhea called off the engagement, so that's why Cass hurried there. But Rhea didn't think her cold-hearted father would budge, even if his daughter asked for it. She wondered about the conditions he was suggesting. Just then, the stern voice of Harry interrupted, telling Cass how dare he talk to his master like that. Cass was scared and stepped back. Rhea asked Harry if he did that. Harry asked who else would be able to do that there. Cass wondered what just happened to him. Rhea told him she had no idea what made him think she would be delighted by that offer, but she would like to take the chance to tell him she didn't find him attractive anymore. And there was one more thing: blackmail was a much better way to get what they wanted. In anger, Cass stormed outside and announced that they were going back to the capital. Rhea apologized for not seeing him out. He didn't reply, and as he headed downstairs, Harry did something to make Cass fall. Everyone was scared to see that. Rhea thanked Harry for it and kissed him. Then they went to check on Cass. She told him it seemed like he was tired those days to be stumbling around like that, but he didn't have to worry because lacking stamina was nothing to be ashamed of, and she wished him good luck. She was having tea with Harry, who was lying like a human on her legs, and she told him it was so good. Harry asked if she was happy. She agreed because she had finally gotten rid of that annoying case. Harry mentioned that it must be nice feeling happy when he wasn't. Then he started playing with her hair. She said the tea was so good. Harry replied that it must be nice that the tea she didn't even drink tasted good, and he was feeling so depressed. She told him that he always said the same thing and either demanded blood or wanted to start a war. Harry replied that he was frustrated, and he punished that prince for her, and was trying hard to refrain from killing people, but she didn't even ask or care about how he was feeling. She told him it was fine and asked him to stop chewing her hair. He asked if she was going to let him kill people. She moved her hand over him and appreciated his work. He told her not to think of him as a dog. She told him his hair was so soft. He replied not to change the subject and that he didn't think she had any idea how amazing demons were. She replied that she knew. He told her that she didn't really know. Rhea then showed a cake, and by taking small pieces, she told him that she still didn't do a lot for him. And hadn't he seen how shocked the maids were every mealtime? She said that others thought she had a huge appetite because of all the food she asked them to serve, when he was the only one who was actually eating most of it. Harry mumbled that eating was the only alternative for releasing his frustration. She questioned if that was how it worked. Harry explained that killing was a basic desire for demons, and it was similar to humans wanting to eat food. They didn't die from holding back their desires, but it was so painful, like eating dog food to stay alive for the rest of his life. But she didn't have any idea how much he was controlling himself. She asked if there was any other way for him to take care of that. He wondered about another way, then he fell silent. She told him that he knew there was a way, so she asked him to tell her. She requested him and told him that as long as she felt some form of pleasure, that would do. So what kind of pleasure was he referring to? He then asked her how old she was. She replied that she would be 18 that year. Harry told her that something like that was something an infant like her couldn't do. She asked him how old he was. He told her that he was 2176 years old. She just considered him as a grandpa. He was shocked and told her that demons' age was different from humans and that there wasn't anything she could help him with. Thea then reminded him of the Raven Forest, that there was a habitat for wyverns. and those were the carnivorous dragons with ferocious tempers. And they were natural enemies with humans, so they had to crush their eggs to control their numbers before they hatched in the warmer season. Emma mentioned that they received support from the royal family every year since cracking eggs protected by wyverns was so hard. And that was because the royal family would also suffer if the northern trade route was attacked by those creatures. And 2 of the Caths came to the remote mountain area to hunt. The whole continent knew how bad the relationship between Lydon and Rhea was, and that's L.A., the captain of the Royal Guard. Rhea's relationship with him wasn't good either. Knights only valued chivalry, law, order, and justice most of all, while Rhea was known as a wicked woman. With her constant plotting and her attempted murder of Rhea thought that it wasn't a surprise that Elle despised her. But he didn't know that, since he was a knight, and she would just stay in her room until they left. She was staying in the main wing while they were in the opposite building, so they wouldn't cross paths, and she should never have let her guard down. As she was walking outside of the mansion, Lydon and L.A. came there. Lydon called her, but she thought she shouldn't have listened to Emma. Arel might be freezing cold, but it was also famous for its hot spring, and she didn't go to watch. Rhea even missed the dinner banquet, so she wouldn't have to run into them like that. But that was all for nothing, and she should have stayed in her room. Rhea said that she had no idea they would be there, and she heard that they were busy. Lydon said that they hadn't officially started their hunt, but Rhea seemed quite well, despite all the trouble she caused when they were in the capital. Rhea thought that before she was reincarnated as Rhea, she worked at the trading company, and that meant she had since mastered the skill of ignoring her superiors' nagging. And she also knew that when she was unresponsive, they tended to lose interest. She then told Lydon that if he was done, she would just leave from there. Lydon asked her how she could think about relaxing in the hot spring when she tried to ruin someone's life. She thought that Lydon was still not done. Then she asked if the life of that person was really ruined, and it seemed like he forgot. But that person was the one her fiancé had gotten into an affair with behind her back. She thought that it was not that she wanted anything to do with that prince. She continued, telling him that she was fully aware of her wrongdoings, and that's why she planned on spending the rest of her life in Irel, reflecting on her actions. Or did he perhaps doubt that a person like her could change? But once wicked, always wicked, and as a citizen of that kingdom, she was a bit concerned that a prince who should rule his people fairly was so judgmental and biased. If he would excuse her. She then got to the hot spring, and by relaxing, she said that was what she was talking about. Harry was so far, and she contacted him. She questioned why he was so far. He replied that he was comfortable there. She again told him that he was so far and asked to talk face to face. She asked him to join her. But still, he said that he was fine. She questioned if he was embarrassed. And he was so innocent for a grandpa. He growled and told her that he wasn't a grandpa. Then he finally came there and said, "Let's go." She got confused, and he just lifted her to take her from there. He put her outside of the hot spring. She was shocked and asked what he did to make her dry. He replied that he did that with magic, and vaporizing water with heat seemed so easy, but she had to be at his level as well. She said that he was like a blow dryer. He questioned who that blow dryer was. She replied that it wasn't a person, but an object that dries hair. He questioned if she called a person who could do that a blow dryer. And he was the best blow dryer in the world, and no one would take that off as well as he could. She then agreed with him because she didn't want to be bothered. As she was walking with him, she found Elle there. Elle just hurried away from there by looking at her. Rhea questioned to Harry what that was. Harry asked if that was the tot from the looted family. She told him it was him. Harry said that Elle will like the same guy who looks like the guy next to the idiot who summoned Harry centuries ago, and he was just as taciturn. Rhea thought that even in the novel, Elle didn't talk much, and he was referred to as 1, 2, or 3 Elle. Depending on how much he spoke in an hour, 2 Elle was the average. Harry continued, saying he thought Elle's ancestor was quiet at first, and he supposed that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It was funny how the descendant of a quiet man was also quiet and was the key to great swordsmanship, giving up on talking. Rhea told him that she was so fond of Elle and she was a bit jealous. He replied that Elle was strong and there was something intriguing about him. She asked if she wasn't because she was weak. He told her that she was no fun because she didn't have any ambition. Rhea asked what he thought about developing an ambition for world domination. He remarked that he didn't think that remained boring. At night, Rhea told Emma that she was sleepy after the bath, so she was going to bed. As she entered her room, she found Harry lying on the bed, so she asked for the reason. She told him that she was so sleepy and wasn't in the mood for jokes. Harry told her that they always sleep together. She told him that was when he was a dog, so stop fooling around. He told her that he wasn't, and he was always serious when he said that he wanted to shed blood, but she always ignored him, so he was going to teach her a lesson in how hard that was to hold back desires. She told him that she wanted to hear him, but she felt so sleepy. As he saw her leaving, he asked where she was going. She lied down on the sofa and said goodnight, then slept there. Harry told her that wasn't what he had in mind, and he didn't think that he could hold back anymore. As she wakes up in the middle of the night, she finds Harry on top of her, so she asks if that was his plan B. No matter how much he bothers her, she wasn't going to start a war. She comments on him being too heavy. As she tries to get up, she realizes she can't speak or move. She thinks something's off about him, so she asks if he can hear her and if he's okay. He says too hard, and then he bites her neck. She yells at him not to say she didn't want him and to snap out of it. Then she hits him. He says it hurts and asks why she hit him. She asks if he's awake now. He asks why she hit him. She asks if he's innocent. She then shows her neck and says Harry tried to eat her alive. He's shocked to hear he's responsible for that. She asks if he doesn't remember. He agrees and asks why his teeth marks are on her neck. She thinks that he doesn't seem to be lying. He said he reached his limit and didn't know what he would do next. She asks how he could trust himself not to eat her alive. He says he's not usually like that, and it's just that he's never gone that far without shedding blood. Rhea can't believe her life is being threatened by a frustrated, cannibalistic demon. She tells him they should probably find an alternative solution. He says he's the best blow dryer. Rhea agrees, adding that a very expensive and high-maintenance one at that. Then they both start reading the book. Rhea wonders about exacting revenge and world conquest, realizing she can't use any of those methods, and she wonders why demons are summoned for stuff like that. He replies that it's the norm, and she's the odd one for summoning a demon to light a fire. Rhea tells him that none of those suggestions will help them with their problem. Harry insists they start a war, saying it's as simple as that. She asks him to stop being so counterproductive when she's trying to help him. He replies that she's not doing it for him, but because she doesn't want to be eaten. She asks who would want to be eaten alive by a demon. He explains that she knows he doesn't mean eating like food. She asks if he means he wants her blood, not her flesh, and if he wants some, she can give it to him. He's surprised to hear that and asks what's wrong. She tells him to forget about Harry, and what's the point of talking to an infant about that? She pokes fun at him, asking why he's whining when she said she'd give him her blood. Then she looks outside to Leiden and the others with him. Rhea mentions that it's the day they're going out on the wyvern hunt, and Emma said it would take about a month or so. She recalls telling Emma that it means she'd have to stay in her room if she didn't want to run into them. Emma explains that wyverns are weak when there's sunlight, so they can only be hunted in the afternoon. She stops reminiscing and wonders why the wyverns were strong and questions if they really were. She asks Harry if wyverns are hard to catch. He replies that they're hard for humans and the most they could do was crack the eggs while the wyverns were at their weakest. She then asks if he's aged enough to catch wyverns as well. He says Rhea really has no idea how strong an archmage is. Rhea says it's good to hear. Then she tells him let's get ready for a war. As Elle and the others reach the forest, a cam called Ellen says they found some of the empty nests. Elle says it seems the wyverns have been slaughtered. After a week of office work, Leiden tells Elle that wyverns aren't easy creatures to kill, yet they're being slaughtered daily. Elle says the search party is still investigating, but they haven't found anything. Leiden asks what beast could possibly be stronger than a wyvern, and if Elle thinks they should request more troops from the capital. Elle replies that she doesn't think it was done by a beast. Leiden asks what else it could be. Elle explains they found traces of fire on the wyvern carcasses. Leiden says many beasts don't use fire, so they can assume a creature with intellect did it, and a powerful one at that. Then he wonders if Elle thinks there's a possibility humans did it. He thinks to himself that El is a man of virtue who always maintains a neutral stance in politics, so he's sure he doesn't have an ulterior motive. But Leiden isn't sure how the royal family will react to this unexpected turn of events. In the kingdom of Geraint, the eldest child traditionally had the right of succession. However, after his mother passed away, Cass became the crown prince. Those who value tradition still support him, which is why the queen always puts him in dangerous situations. He's certain she included him in the hunt led by El, hoping Leiden would make a mistake and be blamed for it. Now, there's a mysterious being that has suddenly appeared, and he wonders how that will affect the whole situation. Meanwhile, Rhea is with Harry, who is burning the wyverns. Rhea notices that Harry seems really excited, and seeing him like that makes her realize she really did summon a demon. Suddenly, a part of a wyvern falls in front of her, surprising her. Then Harry suggests they go. Rhea asks if he's done enough for the day, but he always wants to stay longer. He replies that he feels like she's bored. She responds that he's finally started worrying about her after a week, and then she asks why he's been getting quieter each day. He tells her he was worried he might be scaring her. From a weak human's point of view, he might be a bit scary because he has a lot of power, but he really cherishes her, so she doesn't have to be scared of him. She tells him it's nothing like that. She's just a bit bored waiting. Just then, another wyvern flies in. Rhea notices it's gigantic and calls Harry over. Harry wonders what that thing is doing there. She questions if that's a wyvern. He agrees. Just then, the wyvern speaks, saying he's the leader of the wyverns and greets Rhea and Harry. Rhea whispers to Harry that she thought wyverns were just beasts who couldn't talk. Harry tells her they're the special ones, and that one is a mystical creature much older than him. The wyvern asks Harry why he killed his kind. Harry replies that since when did demons need a reason for killing? And then he asks if the wyvern leader came there to argue about that. Harry thought wyverns liked to stay in the south. Then the wyvern asks Rhea for a reason. She thinks she didn't have any idea she would be asked about the reason for killing them, and she would have searched for a different option had she known that. She tells Harry to let her handle it. She heard demons go berserk if they couldn't satisfy their desire to kill, so the solution she came up with was to use wyverns. The wyvern leader says there were lots of other solutions. Harry says as if that would work, she was still an infant, and he thought wyverns protected the young ones, like demons do. Then the wyvern leans in and says he thinks she wasn't wrong, but it's troubling for him because his kind is on the brink of extinction. Rhea explains that wyverns disrupt their trade routes and often prevent humans from chopping and collecting lumber, which she believed was causing a lot of damage to people. She apologizes because she didn't realize the wyvern leader was capable of speaking. The wyvern leader asks her to stop saying such things and expresses sadness over the young wyverns being killed. Harry says he's having a hard time restraining himself too, and that this wyvern is the only one with much intelligence. Rhea thinks she should be worried about Harry the most, but killing a creature with intelligence just seems wrong. Harry tells Rhea it's survival of the fittest, the law of nature. Rhea then looks at the wyvern and tells Harry to stop slaughtering them. Harry is shocked to hear that. Then the wyvern gives her one of his scales and says his kind will agree to her command. She takes it and explains that wyverns will recognize the scale and obey her orders. The wyvern leader agrees and compliments Rhea as the blue squirrel. She wonders about the nickname, but when he calls her the luminous squirrel, she realizes it's a compliment, so she thanks him. The wyvern leader says he's going, but if she needs him, she should call, as the starfishes know how. Harry questions who they're calling starfish. The wyvern flies away, saying he'll come whenever she calls him. Then Harry asks her how she could take the side of the wyvern instead of him. She explains that given the situation, she couldn't help it, and she tells him she's right, asking him to trust her as she'll think of an alternate solution. She tells Harry to just look at the scale and says it's great that they got such a fantastic item. They hear some noise and suddenly a group of wyverns arrives, being friendly to her. She apologizes for killing others of their kind. On the other side, Lionel is thrown out of them all. She's surprised to see him there. Lionel says he came to protect her. She asks him with what he'll protect her. He's confused to hear that. She points out that Lionel's sword is some distance away. Just then, some other guards arrive. Rhea says it looks like she snuck out for nothing. Then she and Harry take a ride on one of the wyverns. Harry asks her if she's scared. She denies it, saying she's enjoying the speed. She thinks their wyverns are far more comfortable to ride than horses or carriages and realizes it immediately. As they flew over the mansion, the knights were shocked to see the wyvern. Rhea landed with the wyvern and told the guards to lower their weapons. Leiden was shocked to see Rhea with the wyvern. She asked him if they could talk for a moment. They went to talk, and she told him she made a new friend. Leiden asked if she really tamed that wyvern. She asked if he didn't see that. He asked how she could prove that it was totally under control. She told him she had little reason to lie about something that could be easily uncovered. Leiden said he assumed she had no intention of sharing how she tamed the wyvern with the royal family. She denied it and said she would like him to take credit for it all, to report to the royal family that the wyvern dilemma had been solved. Leiden questioned what benefit she would get from doing that. She told him she wouldn't have to see people she didn't want to, and she was planning to live there forever. Once the wyvern issue had been resolved, there would be little reason for the royal family to focus on Erel, and they could end their relationship on a good note. Leiden asked if she was really going to let him take credit for such a petty reason. She said it was important to her, and she didn't feel like letting the crown prince take credit for it, especially since he had put her in a foul mood not too long ago. She thought in the novel Leiden leaves the kingdom once Cass is crowned king, but a few months later, Leiden's bloody corpse is found on a far-off continent, most likely killed by an assassin sent by Cass. The only main characters who die in the novel are Rhea and Leiden, and that's why she pitied him. Leiden then agreed with her and said he would accept the poisoned chalice she was offering him. She told him it wasn't poisoned and suggested they go over the details the next day because it was too late to discuss that now. She then came out with Harry and said she was so sleepy. Then she asked Elle why he was following her. He didn't reply much, so she thought he wasn't much of a talker. She mentioned that her dog was with him, wondering if he was trying to accompany her. But he pointed out that it was late, and according to the Knight's Code, it wasn't safe for a lady to walk alone at night. Rhea was surprised to hear his voice and commented on how nice it sounded. She thought a good-looking guy with a husky voice was a winning combo. She complimented him on his voice, wondering why he didn't talk more, saying if she had his voice, she'd be chatting all day. He then reminded her of a past incident when he was in the forest with his brothers, who used to tease him relentlessly. Elle asked him to return his sword. One of them claimed to hear a baby crying, asking the others if they heard it too. Elle's family was famous for being a family of knights, and since he was small and slight as a child, he was always teased by his brothers, especially about his voice until he hit puberty. One of them mentioned how irritating it was. Elle thinks that as he got older, he realized his brother's actions stemmed from jealousy, because he was born with the most talent in the family. Even though he grew taller and his voice deepened, it was still hard for him to speak in public. At first, he thought Rhea was mocking him, but she seemed sincere. He was shocked to see her expression and wondered if he had never been complimented on his voice before. That's why Kath's kind words helped him overcome his fear of speaking. Elle then decides to wait, knowing that the story about Elle's phobia would be mentioned towards the end of the novel. After Kath gets married to Cass, indicating a significant mistake she made, Elle mentions that they have arrived, signaling that he will be. Rhea asks Harry if there's a spell that can erase someone's memory, but Harry denies it. She mentions another famous magician named Harry who could do that. When he asks what she's talking about, she tells him to forget it if he doesn't know. Then she says goodnight and rushes to her room. Elle wonders about Rhea. Rhea lay on her bed and assured herself that Elle wouldn't take a wicked woman's comment seriously. But Harry lay in front of her and expressed how upset he was. She reminded him that he had already killed more than enough, but he insisted those days were. She looked at him and asked if he was going to stay mad at her. Whenever she got close to him, he turned his face away, repeating the same process for a while. Finally, she grew tired and asked how much longer they had to do this because she was getting dizzy. He urged her to endure it one last time, fearing that giving in too easily would weaken him. She pleaded with him, acknowledging the importance of blood for him and assuring him she was taking his needs seriously. She promised to find a solution and asked for his trust and some time. She mentioned that other beasts lived in different territories, so if they were caught hunting there, it could become a political issue. She questioned him about how long he could hold back. He replied that he could last for months if he didn't use any magic, but if he had to change into a dog constantly, it would only be around a month. She pondered that and asked if he hadn't figured something out within that month. Would he kill her? He shouted at her, wondering why she was thinking such terrible things, assuring her that nothing like that would happen, and urged her to try her hardest to find an alternate solution. Then he asked why she had said she would let the prince take the credit. Rhea plans to elevate Erel's guards to become the world's first dragon knights by having them ride the wyverns. This would demonstrate her absolute control over them and allow her to ask a favor of the wyverns, using the scale of their leader. It would benefit all parties involved, as the wyverns would no longer have to sacrifice their young and humans wouldn't be harmed anymore. The knights from the Frost Guard would be the ones riding the wyverns. Additionally, the royal family could receive the hide and claws of dead wyverns. Rhea tells Harry that they have nothing to lose in this plan. They would obtain valuable materials from creatures that are hard to hunt, and by proving the Oberon family's loyalty, she's confident they won't grow suspicious of them, no matter how powerful they become. The next morning, she repeated the same plan to Leiden and asked for his opinion. He said it sounded too good to be true. She instructed him to only write and report positive things about the place, emphasizing how peaceful and quiet Erel was. She expressed her hope of not having to deal with anyone's pet again. Then, she added that if he had something against her, he should take it out on her directly. He asked what she meant. She told him not to pretend he didn't know and referred to what he did with the firewood and how the local company stopped supplying them without notice. Leiden was shocked to hear that and explained how hard it was to live in the cold without wood. He questioned why he would do such a thing, especially considering the notorious greed of the local company, which made huge profits by trading with Erel. He insisted that his uncle would never stop trading because of a personal request and believed it was Erel who terminated the contract first. Then they both exclaimed together that something fishy was going on. Rhea mentioned that the Oberon family and Earl Melior, who runs the local company, would benefit from their falling out. She asked if anyone came to his mind. Leiden hesitated to say, but eventually admitted there was one person he thought of. Rhea inquired if there was any way to find out. Leiden mentioned he had a trustworthy informant. Rhea suspected he was referring to Luke. Luke led an information guild and was a master of disguise. Leiden and Luke had become close friends after meeting while Leiden was traveling incognito. They had overcome many obstacles together, with Kath by their side throughout the journey. If Leiden's source was Luke, then he was trustworthy. Leiden expressed his gratitude for all she had done and promised to repay her. Rhea jokingly said that if he was going to repay her, she wanted it in hard currency. Leiden commented that she sounded like his uncle. Rhea thought everything was settling nicely with him, but an unexpected problem arose. She watched as the wyvern played with the knights, who seemed scared of it. She mentioned hearing how serious it was the previous day but couldn't believe it until now. It seemed they really couldn't even mount the wyverns. She thought that while the Knights of Oberon were usually sworn to one master of Oberon descent, the Fifth Order of Knights were more like mercenaries hired to fight against the wyverns in the Raven Forest, so they hadn't sworn loyalty to anyone in the Oberon family. She pondered how to find a solution for the Wyvern Knights so that the Fifth Order wouldn't lose their jobs because of the new truce with the wyverns. A man stood beside her and commented that practically anyone could be hired to be part of the Fifth Order, and they couldn't expect proper knights to apply for such a cold and barren territory. She mentioned that they were lucky to have people like Lionel. Leiden arrived and expressed skepticism about the idea of dragon knights, suggesting that she should send the wyverns to the royal guard instead, as they could make better use of them there. Rhea reminded him that greed could cause greater losses, and as she nudged him, she apologized and asked if she was being too informal. He denied it and expressed surprise at their relationship reaching the point where they could share jokes. She insisted she wasn't interested in developing any kind of relationship with him. He remarked that she was probably the only one who treated him so coldly. They both noticed that other people were watching them, and Rhea realized she had forgotten Leiden was a prince, so she turned her face away. Leiden then took something out to give to Rhea. She questioned what it was, and he replied that it was the repayment she wanted. She snatched the pack from him and asked if it was money, acknowledging that he was a man of his word. But as she opened it, she found that there wasn't any money inside. She asked if he was serious about it, and he confirmed that he was. She found a black check in there, so she asked if he was sure about it, and he didn't know how much she would take. He told her she didn't seem like someone who would write down a ridiculous amount of money. Rhea laughed and said, since when did he start trusting her? Leiden replied that when they first met at the hot spring, she asked him if it was hard for him to believe that a wicked woman could change, and she was correct. He always thought it was hard for an evil person to change so easily, but it was even harder not to believe, especially when he saw how she had changed. Then he asked if she wanted to come to the capital. She said it wasn't something she could decide by herself. She reminded him that in the novel, Leiden takes her back. Leiden said he supposed that was true, with the public's opinion of her and the Duke's wrath, but something told him he would see her again in the capital. He then said the check was only cashed at the central bank in the capital. She was shocked to hear that. Leiden left. She shouted what a con artist he was and told him to hurry up and leave. As he walked, Rhea thought that with all the help she had given Wyvern, hopefully he would stay alive this time. It was her small act of kindness for a fellow doomed character. Meanwhile, Leiden was inside the mansion when he heard footsteps approaching. He turned to see someone he didn't recognize and remarked that he didn't recall inviting any guests. The man explained that he was there to deliver a letter sent by the connoisseur. As Leiden took the letter, he wondered if it was from Luke. He asked the man if the connoisseur had anything else to say, but the old man denied it, saying the letter was all he was given to deliver. Suspicious, Leiden drew his sword and declared that if that was the case, the old man wasn't the connoisseur's messenger. He swung his sword at the man, but he dodged it and stepped back, removing his head cover. He asked Leiden when he recognized him. Leiden chuckled and said he knew it was Luke. Luke was surprised and remarked that his disguise was perfect. Leiden replied that the most obvious giveaway was the letter being too thin. And also, the information he wanted didn't fit on such a small page. That was definitely not something that could have been delivered by a mere messenger, and that was why Leiden knew that. He then asked Luke what he found. Luke replied that the aficionados were still investigating. Leiden pointed out that if Luke hadn't found the answer, then what was he doing there? Luke asked what else a connoisseur would be doing in the countryside and mentioned there was something exciting there. Meanwhile, Rhea was with Harry, and Emma told them about the festival to see the royal nights off. She was sure that would help Rhea get her mind off things for a while. Rhea agreed, saying she had been really stressed from watching their guards. She then asked Emma to guide her since Emma knew Erel like the back of her hand. Emma apologized and asked why she should guide her. Rhea asked if she was going with someone else. Emma denied it, saying she would be working. So she was asking if Rhea was going to the festival with Leiden. Rhea asked why she'd go with him. Emma asked how Rhea could call the prince by his name. Rhea said it's not like he was listening, and she's sure Emma and her friends call Rhea by her name behind her back. Emma denied it, saying she'd never say things like that, whether Rhea was around or not. When Emma said that, she got emotional. Rhea told her she understood. Then Emma said she really liked Rhea and not to worry about those who gossiped they were ungrateful fools. She said it was all thanks to Rhea that they survived the cold, and she let them off because she was too kind, but she should really punish them. She wanted Rhea to know how much she liked her. Rhea said she was flattered. She thought it was the first time she received such goodwill from someone in that body. Emma told Rhea she had to go to the festival with the prince that day to show everyone who she was. Rhea asked how that led to the conclusion, and Emma encouraged Rhea to show her authority by bringing the prince along. Rhea told Emma she didn't want to use anyone to prove herself. Emma insisted that Rhea didn't need anyone's help and she alone was splendid, and the prince would serve as an accessory like earrings. Rhea asked if Emma didn't think treating him like an accessory was worse than calling him by name. Emma said Leiden wasn't there, so no one cares, and never let an accessory choose them. They could only choose the ornament that would make them shine the brightest. She added that men were only accessories, or so Louise said, who was a famous romance novel writer. Just then, someone came and told Rhea that there was a guest for her. As she entered, she saw Elle waiting there. She apologized to him for making him wait longer due to a misunderstanding with her maid. She recalled a moment 30 minutes ago when one of her maids mentioned that Elle was waiting for her outside. Emma commented that Elle was a good partner for Rhea. Rhea stopped dwelling on it and wondered if Elle was mad at her. He assured her that he didn't mind waiting and hoped he hadn't interrupted any plans she had. She reassured him that she was just on her way to the festival, so it wasn't an intrusion. She paused, wondering whom she was talking to, then glanced behind Elle to see if there was anyone else. She quickly apologized and said she decided to talk to him more often. He mentioned that she was the one who said his voice was nice. She agreed and wondered if he had overcome his phobia just because she complimented him. So what about Kath? Elle didn't appear in the story that often, so his biggest plot point was about his voice. Ella called her and said that something caught his eye while watching the guards during their training. He apologized for coming without notice, but he was leaving for the capital the next day, so he brought her a book. She told him there was no need to apologize. He explained that it was a book on horse training, with information on stirrups and saddles, which he thought would be helpful in figuring out how to ride wyverns. She said she would definitely take a look at it. Elle then explained it all to her. She thought it was a wonderful idea, but believed it might be more difficult to manufacture. Just then, Harry mentioned that it was something only dwarves could make. She wondered about dwarves. He explained that they were skilled with their hands and could make anything if given the materials, but the problem was finding them since they didn't like humans and usually kept to themselves in a village deep in the mountains. However, if they could locate the dwarves, they could probably persuade or threaten them into helping. Rhea thanked Harry for all the knowledge and complimented him, saying he was the best. And then she sat there and thanked Elle for his help, promising to repay him later. Just then, Emma arrived with tea and asked if they were done talking and if they were heading out together. Elle wondered where together meant. Rhea explained to Emma that it wasn't like that, clarifying the misunderstanding her maids had that they thought Elle and she were going on a date, hence why they were busy dressing her up. Rhea thought Elle must hate that idea. Elle said he thought that was for another appointment. Rhea agreed, saying it was with Emma. Emma mentioned she had something to finish first, so she was afraid she couldn't go with Rhea. Rhea realized she would be all alone if Emma couldn't accompany her, and she seemed excited about it, stating that Emma seemed excited. Thank you for watching our video. If you like our romance manhwa recaps, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can also watch a similar romance manhwa story by clicking on this video right here.